Catus Maximus here. This time a little video with this 1500 watt ThermoMate. ThermoMate, which is known for making infrared heaters. So, this is a promotional product. I appreciate them sending it to me. Some people complain about that, but I've got to figure out some way to keep this channel going. I just can't afford to buy all this stuff, and I do make videos every day, so I do appreciate a little bit of assistance with some items that I could personally use. So this claim to fame is, one, it's an infrared heater, so there is no fan. It does not heat up the air. Instead, it reflects the infrared heat using, it's kind of hard to see, there we go. It's a actual high quality gold-plated quartz tube with a carbon filament is what I believe this design is. So it's a more modern infrared heater. So what it's doing is instead it's using the fact that that heat is actually a form of light, infrared, and is just reflecting it out from the tube. Instead of heating up the air, it heats up surfaces, which means there's considerations. Darker surfaces heat up faster than light surfaces. These are really commonly known for shop and outdoor heating, where you just can't heat the air because it just all goes up into the atmosphere. So you got to figure out a way to cast the heat so that when it hits people or even objects, then those are what ends up heating up, and that's what an infrared heater is. So they had offered like a shop one, and then I saw that they actually had this kind of interesting oscillating standing infrared heater. And versus the thumbnail or the camera, for some reason the way the camera picks this up, it shows as being more pink or peach colored when it's really just a deep red, about as red as this. So it has a little beep. It does have a remote control, but my cat played with it and lost it, which is unfortunate. Smartly, you can do everything right through this dial jog knob. So anyway, we just have 5 segments. It's kind of bright and we can hear. Makes a little dinging sound, so if your kids end up playing with it, then they can annoy the beans out of you. It also comes with this safety halo, which we can mount to the front. Unfortunately, I don't like the way it kind of front weights the unit, and just makes it look really strange having this halo. You just have to be aware. They just include as a more modern safety protection. So it does have a tilt protection. So we'll crank it up. You know, it's just segments. I kind of like that design. If you press it, then you get green. That's the timer. And 1 hour for each segment. But here it is. But if we tilt it over, there it is, a little bit steeper, it will turn itself off. When you tilt it back up, it automatically resets into the off position, which is kind of smart. So the big deal about this is if we press and hold, we have an oscillating function. So the way this broadcasts heat can warm up quite a few people. But the problem with infrared heaters is they try to make it a relatively focused beam. That's why that's a gold-plated tube, because the coil, the heat reflects off the gold plating that's on this side, so that more heat goes to the reflector and it makes it a little bit more efficient. So the solution is to actually have an oscillating infrared heater. Now, one of the things you have to admit about these, even if you use them indoors, is no fan. They're as silent as it gets. And yes, when you turn it off, it stops oscillating. Anyway, this is just great for patios and garages and shops where, you know, you've seen and may have seen or been familiar with. They even use them at, like, you know, bars and restaurants as infrared heaters, but they're always kind of concentrated in just one kind of area. Don't really seem to spread the heat around super great. Actually, a lot of people will be familiar with the weird little ones that sit on the floor that look like they're a little radar dish. Those are probably the most common infrared style heaters. But something that oscillates, it's a nice long column. So what you do is you have a kind of like a wall of heat that's sweeping back and forth, or a panel of heat. Makes these a lot more effective. And actually, this is a great example. There, now my camera will focus, but I've had this running right here in the corner. I have a darker colored door, so you can actually see quite a bit of heat there. a little strip of heat on the dark trim. That's a black umbrella, and you can see it's far hotter than the white wall. You can even see these pieces of wood here are actually heating up a lot more than the wall itself. And so that's just something to be aware of when it comes to infrared heaters, is how they work. And a thermal camera is actually pretty cool to show just the effects of darker materials and versus more reflective materials. If you're wearing all white, this infrared heaters are going to do a lot less for you than if you're wearing black boots, blue jeans, and a black hoodie. As far as the unit itself, it still does have an element. We can see the front of this thing's getting, well, now it's facing away from me. We'll wait till it rotates back around. So the back side around the top, we're getting pretty warm, 185 degrees. We start getting around the front there, 385, so getting pretty warm. But it is a heater. It's surprising how effective it is, because you can see the top little controller portion is well isolated. It is much cooler. As a matter of fact, its temperature is about 80 degrees. That's actually not bad engineering. I don't know how they get something, that top part, to stay so cool. I was on the wrong temperature scale here. You know, if we get right on that filament, we can see that thing is super hot, over 900 degrees. But that's the filament itself. And we do have a master power switch. So, that's my little review. I forgot to mention, I should have at the beginning, it's IP65 rated, which means dustproof and light water splashing. So, it's designed to not get ruined if it gets left out in the rain. They're really, kind of advertise that, really make that apparent that this is designed to be outdoors. It's not designed to really run in a rainstorm. But they're saying if it gets, left out or it starts raining, that it's not going to become a dangerous situation, and it should be able to handle it. And so that's the other, probably what adds a bit of expense to this. Even though they had a $25 coupon at the time I made this video, just the fact that adding an IP65 rating on something like an infrared heater probably does add a significant amount of expense. So anyway, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, we're pretty warm, I should say. I've always kind of liked infrared heaters, but they've always kind of been the thing where you have to stand right in front of it or right under it to really get it to work. And since you're rarely ever right under it, what ends up happening is you end up cranking it really high because you're off to one side or the edge of the heat zone. And then in the situations where you're in the middle, then you end up cooking, you have to turn it down. They just kind of get a little bit of annoying. But having one that's a big column that swivels back and forth just makes a big difference. The fact that it's a nice one with a gold-plated tube, still kind of hard to see the way it's in there, but I think that's kind of neat too. It's nice to have that little... I mean, the reason they use gold is it reflects 95% of infrared rays. It's the most reflective material known for infrared. As a matter of fact, gold is so reflective of infrared that if you have a gold-plated mirror and you put it in front of, close to your face, a couple inches from your face, you will feel the heat emanating from your face, reflecting off the mirror back onto your face. It's really kind of interesting. It's also why, that also explains why true space blankets, like the original Norton space blankets, are gold foil, because they reflect heat a lot better than the aluminized ones, but it's just too expensive. Especially nowadays, my goodness. Gold prices are crazy. Which probably also adds, there's probably a significant, or there's probably a few dollars of gold just on the tube. Anyway, thanks for watching.